In case you guys don't know, Harmony and Horror is a YouTube analog horror web series that is created by fellow YouTuber Battington, who before making this used to make a bunch of sketches and FNAF related stuff. That is until he found the FNAF tapes from Squimpus McGrimpus. Am I saying that right? Squimpus McGrimpus? Yeah, I think that's how I say it. Where Squimpus McGrimpus made FNAF maintenance tapes. And that is where Battington got the idea to make his own FNAF tapes, even reanimating some of Squimpus McGrimace's stuff. And so he started to think, what if I made my own web series? And that is where we have here today. Hello guys, I'm Complex to Live, YouTube analysis, and analog horror reactor. The Harmony and Horror, it's got a really complex system. It's got a pretty simple but jumbled timeline, but then has also a lot of other stuff in between that you gotta solve. And so I'm just going to be reviewing every single tape first, and so I'll put a timestamp right about here if you guys want to just skip to the analysis if you've seen every single one of these videos. Alright, now let's start with his very first one. Ice Cream Man, the VHS Cleaning Maintenance Guide. This first ever tape starts with an employee being told about the Ice Cream Man mascot, the mascot for a company under the name Ice Cream Fun, with cheery music playing in the background. And we are told he is their most beloved mascot, but the suit/animatronic, we'll get to that later on, gets dirty sometimes. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1986, at 9:30 at night, we are being shown a tape of the Ice Cream Man being cleaned and us being told to shine his shoes, which we successfully do, no problems, and the guide tells us good job. Next, we are told to clean his hands. However, the music stops, and we see this pair of white robotic eyes in the darkness. We're told to clean his hands immediately with static noise in the background instead of music, and we get a closer look. His hands are stained with pizza sauce, and the eyes disappeared from the background. Out of nowhere, we hear a knock on the door, which is apparently never noticed in the tape. We are told for our final task to open his faceplate and clean him out, for he loves sweets. What kind of sweets are we talking? Or are you getting some Swedish fish? Maybe some Hershey bars? We're told to press his nose to open his faceplate, and the guide starts to tell us the faceplate should be open before getting interrupted, and we see the Ice Cream Man sitting straight up, looking at us. The guide tells us that the faceplate doesn't open, but before he finishes, the text disappears and we hear a loud thud, indicating someone or something came and took care of the guide, or something like that. Our next scene is Ice Cream Man glitching in between his normal phase and a phase where part of his face is open, with weird noises drowning out his soul. 5 minutes later, he disappears, where the employee turns around, to which we see a jump scare of being killed by the Ice Cream Man. The final frames are of a mysterious clown who will make much sense later. Now, Battington doesn't have this video in the Season 1 playlist of Harmony and Horror, but that's probably just because this doesn't add to the lore and it's just a maintenance cleanup tutorial. But since this was his first video, I just wanted to cover it anyway. Now we get to the lost VHS tape, Henry.mp4. On December 25th, 1985, at 1:32 in the morning, we see a ventriloquist dummy who we will see's name is Henry. We hear a conversation between what is assumed to be a daughter and father. It's hard to tell what they're saying, but when we turn captions on, it's a conversation of the daughter telling her father she broke off his arm because she saw it done with the doll on the TV. She tells her dad he won't stop crying, which surprisingly leads the father to be speechless. We cut to August 11th, 1986 at 5:41 in the morning. We're inside a closed dark store filled with Henry dummies. About 35 minutes later, we encounter someone looking at us through the window and soon seeing a Roblox model at the door. They disappear only for Henry to show up and jump scare us, to which the final scene plays out with jazz music playing on a picture of Henry, only for the music to stop and him telling us he can't feel his arms or legs, but he can feel pain, and there's something inside of him that beats, confirming Henry is alive with human organs. The video ends with him looking at us saying it feels like it wants to get out, to which he jump scares us saying that he wants to get out. On April 8th, 1985 at 8:46 at night, if you couldn't tell by now, this is in fact a jumbled timeline. We hear a father tell his daughter he will be back soon and she is going to bed. The fact that he called her sweetie and it's the same voice actor from Henry.mp4 shows that this is in fact the same family. We are also at the camera angle of seeing this bunny looking plush, only to find out later it's a dog, and it just sits slouched on a bedstand. We then cut to 3:30 in the morning of the same day, which you would expect the next scene would be later at night, but it's not. This time we are in the perspective of a man or young boy who hears the sound of a dog whimpering, but upon opening the door to the noise, he sees a dog animatronic covered in blood. We cut back to the plush toy where the lamplight goes out beside it. An hour after discovering this dog, this man hides in a room and peeks out to make sure the robot is gone, but when turning on his light, the thing is there and jump scares him. We cut for the final time to the plush toy. This time, however, it's sitting upwards looking at the camera and a hideous looking face staring at us. The screen goes to black only for the plush to jump scare us, and after getting a better view of him, we see that this is the same as the robotic dog animatronic, but smaller. After those two traumatic events, we see a familiar face again. The Ice Cream Man, the Ice Cream Man. The Ice Cream Man is on stage, hosting a sing-along for the kids, but before he starts singing, we cut to the perspective of two men talking with Henry, and the Ice Cream Man has empty shells resting in the background. These two men, whom we don't see, who are named Martin and Arthur, first talk about how the new mascot is getting the kids' attention, only for Arthur to bring up the fact that Martin killed his dog, but he actually opens up the situation as if Martin possesses it, but Martin tells him it got hit by a car, showing that the dog may have been killed by Martin, since Arthur says Martin has a blood stain on his bumper, and Martin experimented on it, which ended with it almost killing Arthur's family. Speaking of family, we learn Martin has a wife and kid, and Arthur says that him and Martin's wife and kids are leaving him because it's too dangerous. Also, when I said Arthur had a family, this is well, you'll see later. Anyway, Martin then tells Arthur he knows that him and his wife, whose name is Gloria, were having an affair. So Martin fixes the problem with Arthur realizing the horror that Martin has done to his wife. Martin seems to be in the mindset that if something doesn't obey him, he kills it, and makes it obey him by making it a robot. Martin then goes completely bat-crap insane and shoots Arthur off screen. We then travel to we travel to the B movie. We then travel to this beige-walled place, and I'm sick and tired of people calling it the back rooms. This weird there you go. There's Spanish. This weird female-looking creature comes by, and we switch between the Ice Cream Man screaming and this thing doing weird movements, telling us to come with them. The Ice Cream Man then finishes his song, makes a weird noise, telling us to look behind us, and we see the female silhouette is gone, with the Ice Cream Man coming into view with the sound of a heartbeat until the screen turns to black. We are introduced to when Henry was first being made and released to the public, and we watch a supposed cursed commercial with Henry singing, saying it's dark outside and if you want to sing with him. He then proceeds to sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with his voice sounding like he is on the verge of tears. After he finishes singing, we cut to an empty room with a Henry doll on the ground. We then see Henry singing again, however this time the video being cut short to get our view back to the empty room, where this time a distant scream of a young child is heard. The next scene is where things get very creepy, where Henry starts singing again, but his eyes are now pitch black, and his voice gets muted halfway into his speech. After the point of where the song is supposed to end, we go back to the room again, but this time with the Ice Cream Man in the room, looking at the camera. We cut to Henry singing the same song for the fourth time this time, having no voice at all. And that's when he starts to sing, siren head noises come from his mouth. We cut to the room one final time, with the ice cream man spreading his face open, looking like he's about to eat the camera. And we get jump scared with a bloody face inside of the ice cream man. I'm a little confused right now. We also go back to Henry singing one final time, with Henry being torn apart, with siren head noises being heard, and a demon who looks like they are made from paper standing in the back. After this show ends, we are presented with someone knocking on a door with sounds of a baby crying being heard. And for the final shots, we get a disturbing final scene of Henry looking straight forward, reciting a poem, talking about how his daddy loves him, even though he beats him. If he cries, there'll be a knife in his eye. Even though he's a good boy, he does not get a toy. He asks his father politely, saying please, and trying to put him at ease. He asks him again if he can have a toy, being told you have been a bad boy and to shut up and leave. But he's been so polite, but the father says go to your room, I'll surprise you at night. The video then ends with Henry repeating the words good night and looking towards the camera. We are now introduced to a new character named Sophia the Singing Marionette, who introduces herself with a distorted voice asking if we will sing for her. We then get jump scared by a weird looking face, and we cut to a scene of an animatronic baby crawling. Then standing up, looking towards the camera, the baby then begins to run around the room, but then abruptly stopping after seeing you again. The baby turns their head, to which they call out Mama. We now cut to some footage of the ice cream man walking around, slams his head into a wall, and we cut to a marionette head with a blood. Yes, a small droplet of blood. And we cut to a marionette head with some blood on it, hearing some sort of distorted conversation in the back. Next, a hand comes out of nowhere and grabs a face, revealing a face of what looks like an infant crying, with part of the head missing, showing that perhaps a baby possesses this small baby-like creature we saw earlier. As you could probably tell by now, I'm very confused even reading this the second to third time. Now we see a clown who tells his daughter Macy to come out for he has a surprise for her. And since his voice sounds a lot like Martin, it's safe to say that Martin killed his family, even his daughter. The dad then shouts, ordering her to come to him right now. He eventually finds her in the next scene and most likely turns her into one of these animatronic things, very likely becoming Sophia the Singing Marionette. However, Macy doesn't like becoming a singing animatronic because we hear Martin screaming no at her once he sees she's not obeying him. After he screams for a final time, we cut to the next scene. Perhaps this is how Martin dies. One of our final scenes in this tape is a clown looking at us with ambient music playing, and nothing else happens. We cut back to Sophia from the beginning, asking if we can sing for her, giving us two options, yes and no. At the end of the tape, she sings that she wants us to close our eyes while her face deforms. If we choose to sing for her, we hear her voice while looking at her face from far away, getting closer to us. We then get a close-up of her face, which then she stops singing and her face turns dark, ending the video. If we choose to not sing, however, we get a close-up of her face, very similar to the last part with her singing, but we then see a long, human-like tongue come out of it and attack us. We end this video off with a picture of the clown from earlier, with Sophia still singing in the background. The clown then jump scares us. We get to an infomercial from M&A Harmony Toys, telling us if we need someone to talk to and share secrets with. If so, we should get the Stitch Buddy, revealing what that dog thing was from Wake Up Bonzo. It's a talking toy. It is designed for talking, laughing, and singing, even though its qualities come up as can't talk. But most importantly, this thing can keep your darkest secrets. I should also mention that it sounds a lot like Ice Cream Man running this infomercial. We cut to Bonzo, a little bigger than the Stitch Buddy, sitting in an empty room with some mannequins hanging on the ceiling. A man who we are assuming to be Martin tells Bonzo to stand after running some tests on him, to which Bonzo does stand up, but becomes a humanoid robot in the process. This was a big growth spurt for him. We then see that on the side, Martin is having some difficulties with people because he seems to be angry at someone, but I don't know. But while he is training Bonzo, someone comes to his house, to which Martin tells him to stay right there until he gets back, which he does, but looks straight at the camera in the process. The lights go out and we see that Bonzo is no longer staying. He proceeds to rise up from the ground looking at the camera. We hear the doorbell ring again and we hear Bonzo saying his voice lines from a distance away. That is when Bonzo looks at us and the voice lines stop, to which Bonzo then jump scares us. At the beginning of this tape, something I didn't mention was in all these tapes it opens up with someone inserting them into a VHS player, but this one has the same thing happen, but the clown looking straight at the TV. More on this in the analysis section. This tape is dedicated to the mental rehabilitation session, telling us that this is a place for us to be at ease, only for us to be transported to a video of a field, and we're told no matter what we have done, come here for all your problems to go away. In the middle of the tape, Henry shows up giving us some suspicions. At a distance later, we see a green screen Sophia looking at us as well? I don't even know what that is. We are told to imagine an open field where our fears and regrets can't hurt us, with us then seeing the ice cream man coming closer to us from the far end of the field. After he gets close enough to us, we see his face is open, but the guide for this video tells us that not even our brother can hurt us, showing that Martin is the ice cream man's brother, who we indicated earlier the ice cream man may be Arthur. Or this could be symbolizing how he was like a brother, but we soon figure out that he actually is a biological brother. We triggered a jump scare of the ice cream man, but directly afterwards we see a Jack-in-the-Box playing Pop Goes the Weasel, with it stopping and the clown coming into view from the side of the screen. Finally, to end the video, the clown is shown on screen with the words "Rest Assured" repeating. We see a room looking a lot like the room from Wake Up Bonzo, with Martin and Gloria saying that they'll be on a business meeting, telling his daughter they'll be gone for a while. To which the daughter says she needs them to sing her a lullaby to go to sleep, which we'll also see a drawing of Sophia on the wall giving us some theories onto who this will become much later. This is actually what triggers Martin to make her a toy that can sing forever, giving him the idea of Sophia, which could be what the drawing was indicating. We then see Sophia singing and jump scaring us soon after. We cut back to the house with the drawing now gone from the room and Gloria telling Macy they have to leave without Dad, showing this is the event Arthur was telling Martin that he's taking Gloria and the kids away from them. We hear them scream and Gloria tells Macy to hide and don't come out, and we hear a gunshot go off, which opens up to Martin asking where Macy is, directly connecting with the Don't Cry audio. We hear Martin saying some weird words and Macy locked in a room with a safety with a Sophia doll calling out for Mama, and there's upside down crosses on the wall. We proceed to then see Henry, who says to his dad he can't see him and apologizes that he made him mad, and everyone's actually mad at him, showing everyone probably hates Martin, and Henry wants his dad to fix his eyes because everything hurts, and we see Henry is talking to this clown that is not talking back, ending with a jump scare of a goat and Sophia having some problems with her voice. Now we get to my favorite tape. Something that I didn't realize until much later, and all these tapes seem to be getting inserted into the VHS player, but in all the videos starting from here, they are all already in the player because they don't open up like this. I don't know if that really means anything though. We open up the video with a review about M&A Harmony Toys, saying that the toys are more dead than alive and a huge waste of money. After this, we get to a production made by HMA Harmony Play Productions, showing a tape on how to assemble a toy, following two brothers named Marcus and Andrew, and their dog, Bonzo. Marcus is having a dream Andrew wakes him up from, to which he hears he was dreaming about a man in red with ice cream cones on his head, to where Andrew interrupts saying it's ridiculous and the toy maker's in town, they had to go see him. We get a scene that lasts for only a few frames, and it's a page talking about an upcoming toy named Sophia, that will sing to children, and parents are asked to not interrupt the toy while singing for some reason. The two boys and their dog go to the toy maker, and we see a poster for Henry showing that at this time Henry was a new creation. After the boys get to the toy store, they run into the toy maker who tells them he needs some items to make the perfect toy for them, and his toys can do many things but no special traits, such as they can talk but can't sing, or blink and not see things, something like that. So the toy maker asks the boys to get a few things for him, like needle and thread and paint, things like that. It is when they come back for the third time where things get weird, and the toy maker asks for their dog, to which they give to him. He needs it so the toy can have a friend when it's alive, so the toy can be happy. After they give him the dog, he has the two boys sing something to him, but the audio is redacted and we see the monstrous version of Bonzo getting closer to the screen. After they recite what he says, the toy maker opens the door showing them the toy, but ultimately probably kills them. We end this off with some posters of children who were killed, all being dead by 1982, and we end with Bonzo, which says he was still moving after he hit my bumper, proving that Arthur was right when he said Martin killed Bonzo. One other thing I didn't mention is we see a dead body in a bag later, and we see a withered looking Henry attempting to run out of this room for some reason. It's also worth mentioning at one certain point in the toy maker's conversation with the boys, we can see the face of the ghost from Wake of Bonzo. So apparently this is an unlisted video with a very weird structure. But when put into base 64, it comes up as, "Don't you want to be happy?" A quote from the toy maker. Thanks to user T Sailor Beetle for solving it, because I was totally lost. The whole video is pictures of all the characters ending with the ghost we keep seeing around, which is assumed to be Gloria. That's literally it. We open up with a dark lit yet colorful room with a poster of a clown. We hear some cheery music and then we go to sleep. Our next scene is an interview of Martin, who we learn his last name is Greywinder, and a man named Mr. Stewart is asking Martin some questions about his company, making it unknown who Mr. Stewart is and what he's doing here. Martin asks if this has anything to do with him harming his family, or the Harmony broadcast incident, which we'll see was most likely an event where everything went wrong with the Harmony broadcast incident, and the whole scene in Are You Happy is most likely what the incident was. Mr. Stewart tells Martin he is here regarding Martin's intern, Amy Wilson, who was at the end of Are You Happy. She was shown as a victim who died in 1982. It says she died with her spine removed, and in that body bag from Are You Happy we see a floppy and structureless face, most likely being Amy. After Mr. Stewart, who we figure out to be a police officer at this point, asks about Amy, Martin's face then turns into the clown and jump scares us. We then get a view of a dimly lit vent, eventually seeing Sophia crawling around, presumably killing the man in the vent, or maybe it's just a camera. We also see the little baby robot from Don't Cry comes back and gives us a cute little jump scare. This also implies Martin had a third child and fused the baby with this thing. I don't even know what this is. Which gets us back to the room from the beginning, and now looking at it, this looks like a baby's room, of all things. We see a door from the room is now open and shifts our view back to the door. We see Bonzo in his monstrous form getting closer to this small child, showing that Martin did this experiment in his house. We then see Bonzo's view, and thanks to the subtitles we hear the baby's name is Ava, and Bonzo knows he has to be a good boy, but he's wondering if he should obey Martin to kill her or rebel and let her live. If you decide to kill her, you do, and Martin tells you that you are loyal to him, but since Bonzo killed her, the blood's not on Martin's hands, getting him off scot-free. But if you do the right thing and don't kill her, he recites the 6th commandment and just stares at Ava. For his punishment, Martin comes in and destroys Bonzo. Martin then goes insane, saying it's not his fault. And that is final shot is him sitting as the clown. If you couldn't tell, Martin is represented as the clown. But another thing to address is this was the same final shot from the Ice Cream Man maintenance tutorial. We start with someone going down some stairs only to get jump scared by a deformed looking Ice Cream Man, Henry, and a deformed withered Henry, showing that old Henry we kept seeing is actually a different character. We then see Battington using a green screen for some reason and an HD Bonzo being told to be quiet. We are then shown the animated version of the Stitch Buddy commercial, which seems to go pretty well, minus the creepy face of the real Bonzo coming out of nowhere, and him being told to be quiet for some reason. We then move on to Henry, who is singing the poem he said from I Want a Toy, with it being very distorted. This cuts to an animated advertisement for Henry. Before this toy jump scares us, we can see the ghost thing in the background. We now see a character that we have never seen before with a beard. I'm assuming this is Arthur, since this next segment is on the Ice Cream Man, and I was actually right. As you would expect at this point, he has a cursed face jump scare and then an animated advertisement. He tells us he loves to eat some sweets, and if you ever have a colorful dream, just remember, nightmares last forever, which triggers a jump scare depicting the normal and distorted versions of the Ice Cream Man. Our last segment is Sophia singing and saying she wants a lullaby, this being one of the last things she said to her father before her death. There is one segment in this advertisement that has backwards audio from Sophia, and it's hard to hear, but what I got was, I hear angels hear my call. If anyone is here, stay a call. I hear angels hear my cry. Change the ones that have to die. I hear angels hear my groan. If your angels here to come, I hear angels sing on me. Make me sing happily. I hear angels use my soul. With their spirits I have control. Something like that. Hey, Belle. Hey, Belle. I have my puppies here. Hey, baby. You tired? Yeah, she was barking at something earlier. My crazy girl was barking at something. Yes, she was. She's a good girl. What's going on up there? Something's going on upstairs for some reason. Anyway, where I was, I know I messed up some of those lyrics, but that's pretty much the gist of it. One animated advertisement later, we are seeing where all the mascots are located at, and something strange about the Ice Cream Man is we see the toy maker's head on the ground, showing that either they have merch for the show, or this is a costume worn for the show. Our last shot is Macy's room, and a Jack-in-the-Box that does not work. We see the aftermath from Are You Happy?, where the brothers are crying over Bonzo's death and the toy maker gets angry thinking the boys messed something up. He explains that he fooled so many people to try to perfect this and all of them failed. He grabs one of the boys up in the air and tells them, I'm not going to let anyone let me down, including you. The same thing he told Arthur before he killed him. That is when the toy maker sees something in the darkness that makes him terrified. Something red and horrifying with horns that comes to him, and the toy maker is begging for his dear life, asking for more time. The being then lunges at the toy maker, killing him, presumably, and for almost a minute we see the toy maker's fearful face. This has a scrambled title, children. If we get each letter back one letter from the alphabet, you get the sentence, they are inside the building. For half of the video, it's a presentation of what to do as a nightly patrol officer inside the M&A company. The guide tells us that at the end, if a toy is to move, do not look away from it, showing that something like this has actually happened before. We then see the clown again, and we are in the perspective of a nightly patrol officer. He is in the same store as seen from the Henry.mp4 tape, and we see Henry with a demonic face in front of him, looking at something. The patroller looks around, sees what I want to say is the Ice Cream Man but melting. My dude ends up running and hiding. That's when a Henry doll appears in front of him and proceeds to shoot him with blood actually coming out of him, proving that these toys are in fact living humans inside a robotic shell. This seems to be test footage for the M&A show, where the ice cream man asks the audience if they want ice cream, and the ice cream man doesn't know simple math. He teaches the children how to count to 10. After counting to 9, the footage changes when we are shown the number 10. We are in a house at Christmas and we see a lot of presents. We're then shown 9 different types of Henrys, with the 10th one being that melted ice cream from earlier. Also, I realized later that this is not the ice cream man, but in my analysis I will cover exactly who this dude is. Our final shot is out from the Christmas presents. Henry comes up out of the presents while White Christmas plays in the background. In this video we learn from Don't Cry, apparently Sophia wasn't the one who attacked Martin, it was actually the ice cream man, but more on that in the final analysis. Oh, I also want to mention that these past 3 videos are all unlisted. The only one public is What Went Wrong, but in the description are 2 unlisted videos, which, watching them, lead you to another video, which leads to another video, which then leads to this. Speaking of this, what is this? We see a closer look at the deformed ice cream man. We hear a quiet voice saying his name is Arthur Graywinder, confirming Martin killed his brother and put him in the ice cream man costume. And even though Arthur says Martin tried to kill his family, that is just Arthur talking about Martin's wife and children, since he is revealed to be their uncle, and that if Gloria is watching this, she needs to stop Martin from killing anyone else. A news report is being broadcasted that the police came to the Graywinder household after hearing some complaints on child abuse, but after the cops arrived they found empty skins and severed limbs in the basement, and at the same time 8 people went missing, which all of them were found in the basement. But strangely of all, the family wasn't inside the home, but we all know where they went. Martin is being accused of this murder, and we also hear their son was named Thomas, and that Arthur was actually the owner of M&A Harmony Play Incorporated. We are back at the open field from Rest Assure, where we hear Gloria say that they have had their first date there. Later we see Gloria's face morphs into a calm expression, telling Martin to stop making their children suffer, showing that they are in fact not dead, but they're living inside the toys. And Gloria has been playing the tapes over and over for Martin to help him realize. We now hear a heartbeat, and Gloria looks surprised at something Martin is doing, and we see Martin is destroying the TV, possibly killing Gloria. There's Morse code in this description, children, which translates to, "The show must go on, isn't that right, gang?" Thanks to an esoteric entity for solving that, because I cannot solve that. This video shows a drawing saying you must be this tall to ride, showing next season we may get something equivalent to an amusement park. Even though Battington has confirmed this Christmas special isn't canon, there are a few pieces that, if you think about it, technically are. Basically, the story is the whole family getting killed by a demon many different ways, and obviously most of it doesn't happen knowing the real lore, but it's the ending that makes me suspicious. After 5 days of Christmas are over, we see the whole family died by a demon, and Sophia, the singing marionette, is seen restrained in a chair struggling to break free. And I believe that this was Martin's contraption to make sure she didn't spaz out. He would give her false happy memories, but after all he did, Gloria is still in the tapes trying to show her the truth, which makes me think Gloria is not dead. This opens up with some backwards audio, but translates to, "Prepare for the stupidest thing you will ever see in 3, 2, 1. And it really just explains season 1 in a hilarious way. If you want to see something funny by Battington, just watch that video. The video opens up with Macy being told by Martin that he is setting up a camera in her room to tell her bedtime stories and whatnot, since he has to go on a business meeting, revealing that Martin most likely put the camera in her Stitch Buddy. We open up with a production of a new toy by Harmony Toys, which looks way more lifelike. It is revealed that this new toy is basically Sophie 2.0. After a presentation on the toy, the screen glitches. We hear the sound of kids running and texts of a parent asking their child how was school. They answer that they met someone named Sophie, who is a new toy. We cut back to the presentation of the new toy. We cut to two kids who are asked if they like the toy. The first one, named Marilyn Taylor, says she loves it, but we hear that her legs are broken because she ran away. We then hear her begging for her dear life when a creature roars and presumably kills her off screen. Then there's a second child named Earl McLean who says it makes him happy while the word happy keeps repeating. We cut to a damaged Sophia asking if we want to play a game with her. We are then jump scared. We cut to a third kid named Jennifer Laker who screams and we hear something slamming, probably a door or some kind of being slammed against her, and we hear the same creature growl we heard from the first girl. We now are seeing a security camera looking at some weird looking version of Sophie with her face moving to the bottom of the head. I swear when I see this I'm not scared. This just makes me laugh. Just enough said about this situation. After that, this thing somehow dies and an ET looking creature comes out for some reason. We see a message from Battington saying that some of his characters were infringed and that he will need to start over. But I feel like this is fake since 1, none of his original episodes seem to be deleted, and 2, from the video, that's all folks, we were told in Morse code that the show must go on, which is exactly what Battington says in this video. It seems now M&A has a video game company working with them called Vision Echo. We are shown a game called Memory Lane, to which the protagonist of this episode plays. I know it's made with M&A since we see the loading screen as the clown from earlier, and we also see somewhat of a story from the Harmony and Horror story. We started the game being shown a man in black and us being told to stay away from this man. He then disappears and we start the game as us, the clown, as the driver. As we progress though, we hear a police tape of some officers visiting a man named Frank Norway, who owns an arcade, and since the game we're playing has such low graphics, it's being assumed this is a corrupted arcade game we're playing. We are told curfews are being set up, and there's a big fear and fascination with clowns, and then the latest news, these clown things are everywhere. And if you guys remember back in 2016, or just look up killer clowns, you'll notice that there was a huge thing of killer clowns back then. After doing some timeline work, since Martin started killing in the 80s, if this was 30-something years later and Martin was older and never got caught, this could absolutely fit the timing. And the new and improved toy strengthens my point. And well, the only thing that damages that is we don't know when this police tape is recorded. So if it's somewhere in the 80s, then you know what, I'll just wait for the final analysis that I'm going to make after this. So, sorry about that. We also hear that in a distant store there is something dangerous. I believe over in that store was Martin's so-called toy store. And since there's a good chance a few animatronics are still alive over there, some people might have died there even after Martin left. Back to this episode's story, Frank confirms the stories of this town and that store are actually true. We are still driving the car and we run out of gas and we see this demon in the road a few times, inevitably crashes into Banzo, confirming Martin ran over Banzo from season 1. Wait, is it Banzo or Bonzo? You know, I'm just going to say Bonzo, it's easier. This triggers a huge jump scare frenzy showing Bonzo getting killed, presumably showing the ending from him not killing Ava back in season 1 is canon. Now we are at Harmony Toys, where we see a new toy called the Fuzzy Buddy, a new and improved Bonzo. We see a POV of what is to be assumed a small child, to which this Fuzzy Buddy is acting very weird, and even gets to the point of mocking us when we see a demon-looking thing outside the window. But then Bonzo jump scares us. We see this is probably on an entirely new family, where we also see one person gets eaten and another jump scares to death. We now find a final family member who is about to be killed by Bonzo, but Bonzo gets shot and killed of what we now see is Mr. Stewart, the police officer from season 1. And no, this is not the Grey Winter family, simply just because they died differently in season 1, and also it's shown this animatronic is a way more advanced version than the Stitch Buddy. We also see a guy in of what looks like an underground area where 3 characters who are some characters from the Fuzzy Bunny ad. We get a final, and honestly, I think dark and emotional scene where this is probably one of the darkest scenes in Harmony and Horror, where Ava and Bonzo struggle to reunite with each other, and Bonzo eventually telling Ava the exact words of love he told her from the video Rebirth. Speaking of Rebirth, once they connect again, we get the decision to either free or rebirth Bonzo. If we choose to free them, Ava and him both hold hands and decide to go into the afterlife together, along with the rest of the family, and they're finally free. Guys, I'm going to be completely honest, this made me cry. And I'm not one who easily cries. But in the video Rebirth, in the, actually the Rebirth ending, because the other video is called Rebirth. So in the Rebirth ending, we see Martin is living alone in the old house, surprisingly, and two cops investigate, finding out there's an animatronic in here. One that is both Ava and Bonzo, fuse showing that in this ending their souls aren't free, and kills both officers, showing Martin escaped. Now we are on the currently final tape, and I am closing in at about 15 minutes of recording this. So this video is called Miracle Child. We open with Martin and Gloria talking about adoption, out of all things, since Martin apparently can't have children with Gloria. Martin then says he's going to work down in the basement. I wonder what he's doing down there. We then see a Christmas letter from someone named Eddie Miller, who's asking for the new Henry doll this year. And then him or some other kid plots to capture a picture of Santa Claus. But when the kid actually does, it's not Santa. Instead, it's the melted ice cream monster thing I'll discuss later. Our next segment is Arthur's speech. We learn Arthur is still alive somehow. He was shot, as we know, but the date is now 1993, showing that back then, 7 years ago, Arthur was shot, and he's still alive now in 1993. Got it? And Martin went so berserk that the newspaper deemed that day as the 1985 Martin the Maniac case. Arthur says it's like his face is melting, which is what Martin did to his face, making me think very differently on this entire series. Also, the thing I was saying about M&A opening an arcade earlier in the Perfect Pet episode is proven to be correct, for Arthur announces the arcade being open with that 2016 clone thing I also said earlier is now irrelevant. Arthur shows everything the arcade has, and even shows Henry the puppet dolls as security guards, which contains a cipher that currently no one has been able to solve. I have tried ciphertext, Morse code, hexadecimal, base 64, looked on Reddit and Google, nothing works. Arthur concludes his speech by announcing all 8 missing individuals were found in the Grey Winter house. The 8 missing individuals are named Adam Harper, Katie Brooks, Michael Milson, Harley Thompson, Gregory Fanto. It would have been cool if his name was after a drink. Strala Smith, Matthew Patterson, and Martha Clementine. However, when we get to Martha Clementine, it says her remains were never found. It proceeds to show Martha's bloody and screaming face, showing she died in what looks like a different house. And after looking at Harmony and Horror on Reddit.com for 5 minutes, I realized something. User AxoLucky pointed out that this isn't Arthur speaking. For some weird reason, my dumb head did not realize that that was the entire point of Arthur wearing that mask. As you know, he said his face was melting, so he had to have this mask because his face looked deformed. And I'm an idiot. But you'll see who this guy is in my final analysis in a few minutes. Our 4th segment is another commercial from M&H Harmony Toys, which depicts Henry having his eyes and limbs removed, saying he and Stitch Buddy are playing tag and he fell and broke apart, and yet somehow he's facing straight up. Also, this model is just awesome. After finding both his arms and one of his legs, the screen starts to go red. You find his other leg, and after that snaps into place, he asks for his eyes, which we also see the clowns in the background. Hey, how can Henry know when we found his parts if he has no eyes? After we find his eyes, we cut to a more bloody version of Henry and adding a pair of human eyes to him, showing the transformation of Thomas. We then cut to Thomas's room where Martin says he will show Thomas his surprise now, and we hear a very distorted music box. We then see a mess of jumbled pictures of Henry show up, but we also see this newspaper bulletin for November 11th, 1985, saying the bodies of Nathan Barnes and Richard Smith were found. And if you remember, these were the two boys mentioned from Are You Happy? It mentions they both died from the Harmony broadcast incident from the kids program called The Adventures of Marcus and Andrew. They would later put a warning message on this show to prevent anyone from watching it. But on November 11th, their bodies were dug up from the cemetery. We cut back to the video, and we see the ice cream man come out from the closet and jump scaring Thomas, killing him at the indication of blood on the bed. Our fifth segment is Gloria talking to Martin, saying she made an appointment with their doctor since she wasn't feeling well. She would only discover she's pregnant with a baby boy that they would name Thomas. Next, we see the perspective of another child, this time seeing that pink blob-like monster, which now I'm not thinking this is the melted ice cream man anymore. He says he'll take a picture of him to show mom and dad. Also, I think this is the same boy, Eddie from earlier. After the kid tries to take a picture, the monster says he doesn't like cameras, calling him Mr. Handy. The kid sees the thing has a new Henry doll, which comes up to the young lad and asks if he could tell the kid a story. The kid accepts, and he tells the kid a story that this body is not his, and he was placed backstage when he was supposed to be around the children. He heard a lullaby that twisted his mind and it paralyzed him, but at the same time feels there was something else controlling him. Now the lullaby may be either the music box because it resembles Martin, or maybe the My Daddy Loves Me lullaby, that poem Henry said. I'm actually not certain. We then hear the kid crying, and the story continues that this creature's skin peeled off and soon saw a black and white slender and tall creature that tells her, since we hear this protagonist in the story is actually female, I don't know why I was calling it a he, that it'll be okay. Follow me. Sounds like Gloria. However, that's not the case because it says they ripped out her, it doesn't say what, but I'm guessing spine. And we see a picture of the slender creature being Martin. This all connects to Amy Wilson, who, if you remember, says she stopped screaming when her spine came out. We saw her body from Are You Happy? But that was just the skin. Her skin came off, and Martin took out her spine, making her this pink monster. I guess you could say it connects. We end the segment from the ending of the video that are inside the building, where the security patrol guard shoots the Henry doll, and we hear he is now shooting the pink blob, and it's assumed the pink monster won, since we see it later on has escaped this facility. Now we get to a very disturbing product. Security Henry. Security Henry is a bulletproof, flexible-armed robot that is used to make sure no one breaks the rules. If them being robots or bulletproof wasn't bad enough for you, they can also tell if you are a criminal and rips your spine out. Hey kids, who wants to go to the M&A arcade now? Our final segment of this currently final episode is Gloria telling Martin that he should have dropped off Thomas to school, but Gloria got called by the teacher that he wasn't there today. Martin then proceeds to ignore her question and says after the broadcast incident, Arthur demoted Martin, making him the mascot performer. Gloria asks again, and Martin says that he figured out that surprisingly Thomas is not his child. When Arthur and Gloria were having an affair, they sort of made a child, which finding that out, and after the broadcast incident, that sprawls Martin off the edge of insanity. He cocks the gun at Gloria, telling her that he took care of Arthur, and we don't know where Thomas is. And he tells Gloria that she has 30 seconds to get the girls out of there before Martin goes berserk. We then hear Martin counting, and the credits start to roll with cheery old music, and we soon hear some gunshots go off, and since we saw the other parts, we know exactly how this ends. Oh, and we see the canon ending to Ava, which, besides that Bonzo and Ava reuniting scene, this is probably the darkest scene in Harmony and Horror. We hear Ava crying until we hear one more gunshot from Martin's gun. I think you kind of know what happened, didn't you? But you see, the thing is, my friends, that this is the hexadecimal code in this description. And needing no help, I decided to translate it, which got me to this YouTube link. It shows Henry doing some mouth movements only to stop and slowly age. We then see what I believe is to come. We see him and his long arm at a playground, and him with the arm sneaking up on you inside a vent. And then we get my favorite part, which is a 2-second shot of the ice cream man. He's back, baby! Alright, hold on. Before I start with the analysis, how long have I actually been recording for? A little bit over 50 minutes, apparently. I've been trying to record this non-stop. So, forgive me if I'm having to drink a bunch of water. Okay, I was not expecting this to go on for a legit hour. Well, too bad you're here. You suffered for me talking for almost an entire hour. Can you believe it? Now, finally, we solved all the video's lore. But now, we must get the entire lore together. I'll be setting up a timeline, but also figuring out how the toys are alive. Everyone says because Martin made a deal with the devil. But if you know my channel, you know that I always try to give a different perspective. And I don't actually think it's the devil. What if I told you this has pretty much nothing to do with the devil, and it's all Martin's insanity? I don't want to make this look like a dream theory, because there are a few parts in this that actually are real, but most of them you will see are not, and I got a bunch of evidence to back this up. Let's start with the lore that we know is real. Around 1952, both Arthur and Martin are born, and we know this because we see Arthur's gravestone. The brothers were very close, but had their differences. But inevitably, they would work together to co-found M&A Harmony Toys, a toy company that produces toys, obviously, but tries to appeal more to kids with cartoon mascots of ventriloquist dummies and an ice cream cone. However, around 1982, Martin has become a sociopathic murderer. As seen in Are You Happy, he would lure people into what seems as his toy store, but is most likely either Martin's own private store, or he just does this at the normal store. But anyway, children will come to the store to ask for the perfect toy, which Martin will make it, but inevitably have them come see the toy in the back room and supposedly lock them in and kill them later. And you may be wondering, what is Martin's motivation for this? Well, he says that he wants to know how to make the perfect lifelike toy, but I guess that just twisted his mind so much that he decided, hey, what if I kill some people? That would probably make it work. But by around 1985, he realizes he needs to improve his methods, because at this time Martin is going insane, making his wife and children uneasy. Another thing to mention is one other way he would capture children is get in a clown costume, and when no one was looking, he would snatch them, as shown in the mini-game at the start of The Perfect Pet. But coming home one night, Martin accidentally runs over his dog Bonzo, who was in the middle of the road, and even though I said he has children, around this time he has 3, even though his wife says they couldn't have children together. Martin didn't know what to do. He was a little saddened but also overjoyed by the death of his dog, because now he doesn't have to worry about it barking all the time and peeing on his shoe. And this was also the gateway to a path of more murder. We know at around this time Martin is not new to the realm of robotics. At around this time, we see that he has been able to make robotic-like creatures. Even though the Ice Cream Man is a mascot, like a little costume mascot, and Henry is a puppet, Martin is familiar with broadcasts and others relating to that. And also, Ice Cream Man does have a few robotic features, so I guess you could count that. Oh, speaking of broadcasts, something I forgot to mention was in 1982, M&A made a production company and had a show called The Adventures of Marcus and Andrew aired, but Martin put in some demonic cantations or something like that, but whatever it was so bad that 2 kids named Nathan Barnes and Richard Smith died watching it. Kind of reminds me of the that Pokemon epilepsy moment, if you guys know what I mean. They were later buried in the cemetery. Back to 1985, Martin wants to make more lifelike toys, much to Arthur's refusal. Martin starts to do it anyway, and Henry the puppet was teased as early as 1982, So that was in development. But to remember his dog, Martin came up with the Stitch Buddy, a little dog rabbit looking thing that will love listening and something to talk to. But Martin had other plans for this. He released these to the public, but he kept one for himself, which he put the flesh of his dog Bonzo into this thing. But inevitably, it doesn't work. Nothing happens. Okay, here's where my wild theory of fiction and reality takes place. I don't think the monstrous Bonzo is real. I believe this is depicting what Martin wanted to happen and was so lost to insanity that he imagined it would kill off his family, but in actuality, he's the one who actually kills all of them. Which, surprisingly enough, with the help of the ending audio to Miracle Child, that's exactly what happens. He kills all of them with no help. In that same year of 1985, we learned Gloria, Martin's wife, was having an affair with Arthur, but really it was to give Martin some space, but they accidentally had a child. Well, actually, more like 3 together. But Gloria told Martin it was their kid to make him feel better and that it would bring him back. Which it did, for a short amount of time. Martin eventually learns about the child and he finds Arthur at the toy store, totally snaps and kills him, and puts him in the Ice Cream Man costume. At around this time, Thomas, his oldest, saw the bad side of his dad, and asked him for a toy, which Martin just buzzes his son off, showing he is not showing his son enough love, and beats him to let out stress, even though Thomas did nothing wrong. We learn from I Want a Toy in Miracle Child that it's gotten to the point where Martin says he'll surprise his son at night, which we see is Martin kills him. Even though we see Ice Cream Man kills Thomas in Miracle Child, I believe Ice Cream Man isn't real. I mean, obviously the mascot is real, but I just don't think Arthur possessing him is real. I think Arthur's body is inside of him, but it's not possessing him. Think about it for a minute. The only times Ice Cream Man actually appears is through convenience, and pretty much nothing else. I swear I'll tell you the rest of the story and you'll forget about him entirely. After he kills Thomas and Arthur, Martin confronts Gloria about the child, to which he gives her and the 2 girls 30 seconds to get out, and we see he shoots and kills Gloria, finds Macy, his daughter, who will inspire him with a toy named Sophie later, kills her off, and finds Ava, who is crying, and kills her. That's kind of dark even for me, dude. Even though we see Bonzo will try to kill Ava later, this is not right, since I established Bonzo the humanoid robot isn't real, and Martin killing off Bonzo is simply him realizing this plan will not work. Bonzo can't work.
Incredible, isn't it?
What have you done to Bonzo?
No matter how much I perfect the equation, there always seems to be something wrong.
Well, we just wanted the perfect toy.
So did I. What did you two do?
What
did you do? I have spent days perfecting this. Do you have any idea how many I've had to fool to try and try again, only to fail? You!
Me?
This is all your fault. You could have had the perfect toy. But you had to doubt me.
And I thought he would put the children into the toys, but in actuality, he actually doesn't do that. While researching this, I came across a character named the Puppeteer, who I mentioned a little earlier, who is a humanoid mix between of what I'm going to assume is all the children in his wife's flesh, and also maybe Amy Wilson, who we see was Martin's intern, who got her spine taken out, and that Puppeteer's story in Miracle Child depicts Martin doing something very similar to how she died. Now, this is that melted ice cream man, that pink blob thing. That's what his name is. He's the Puppeteer. That's what's controlling all the Henrys. The children's souls are actually not trapped, but instead, what we see at these different moments of the children being possessed is actually Martin getting traumatized by these old memories and thinking of exactly why did he do this. And Gloria is gone as well, but since she mattered to him the most, that is why she appears at random all the time. And, going back to that Rest Assured video, when it shows Martin the Clown watching the tapes, it's shown that it's his persona of her showing him to snap out of it, even though it doesn't work. So anyway, about the puppeteer, I believe this guy is actually real. Sure, it's a paranormal mess, but this would make the most sense. Perhaps Martin created him, but in actuality, he realizes this doesn't work either. This way, all the bodies of the family are stored in this one thing, and if people come by, they won't find it. That is until the cops actually come. In the sub-video Rebirth, not the actual video Rebirth, in the choice Rebirth where the two officers come to Martin's house, he made one robot that actually does work. A mix of Ava and Bonzo, that it doesn't speak or anything, just attacks. That is the most reasonable creation sense. So yeah, Martin escapes from the law, having that thing kill 2 officers. By this time, Martin kills about 8 more individuals. I know this because at the scene with Arthur's speech, we already established this is not Arthur, and we saw a few people missing from Are You Happy, and a few others from like Local Set 13 and all that, but these characters are completely new, showing that by the time Harmony and Horror Season 2 takes place, somewhere around 1993, Martin possibly goes off on a different name and decides to make some more and improved murder machines. Now we get to a very weird part that will be very up to debate. Who killed Martin? We see 3 different ways Martin dies. One by the devil, one by his daughter, and then one by the ice cream man. What if I told you none of these are real? They're just nightmares. Martin is older now, but if he's still on the run, then possibly it'll truly end with Mr. Stewart, the cop, searching for Martin, and eventually shoots him dead, ending the main series. We also hear that back when Martin was using the clown suit for his victims, an arcade store from across the street owned by a man named Frank Norway, who made clown horror games to keep children away from Martin's store, which possibly got the cops involved in the first place. The cops have actually had some close calls with Martin a few times before that, since we see he abused his son a lot to the point to where the police had to get involved. Also, as for the imposter posing on Arthur, it's possibly either a guy Martin paid to pose as him, Martin changing his own voice, or my personal favorite, made a lifelike animatronic that can move around with a mask that looks like a human. Now for the final question. What is with the satanic rituals? Now I know, I saw the upside down crosses and whatnots, and I believe in the Harmony broadcast incident infusing his children's flesh into the robots that he tried communicating with the devil, but I honestly don't think it actually worked. Don't try this at home, folks. So this story is kind of like an unconscious, semi-conscious sort of thing, where one character, Martin, sees all this going around him but is oblivious that he is actually murdering everyone, and he is at the brink of insanity, where he is very strategic but will eventually make something that will kill everyone if not stopped. And so I believe the security Henrys are real, since Martin would seem like the guy to actually build this kind of thing. There's a huge chance you guys didn't like this theory, but hey, I just wanted to make something different than the classic "the devil made me do it" vibe. This is actually fun to cover. Not too complex of a timeline, but still is very effective. Man, this took a lot of research and a lot of time to make. Also another thing I wanted to establish was in the video What Went Wrong, that scene where the devil is coming out of the darkness approaching the toy maker. I believe that the Lord of that is... So I was actually lucky enough to comment on one of Battington's community posts, and Battington actually replied back to me. I was wondering if perhaps, if you look at Battington's profile picture on YouTube, his profile picture is actually a red devil. So I was thinking perhaps maybe he was breaking the fourth wall and making it look like Martin died to the devil, but in actuality it's just signifying that he's going to be doing more with Martin. And so he actually said there's no fourth wall breaking, but I wonder if this kind of thing would work. To where, like, he's just there. He's not going to kill Martin or anything. He's just there. And Martin just believes he's the devil and just goes pure, like, has a panic attack. and just thinking the devil's going to kill him, but really it's just Battington just checking on him. You know, like the Marvel What If series where like the Watcher's watching over everyone. Something like that. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope Battington watches this. If he doesn't, well, I hope you guys like it. So, yeah, I just wanted to give off this vibe because, you know, I've seen a lot of theories and explanations saying the devil is the cause of this, and I believe that's probably what Battington's going for, but I know this theory is most likely not going to be real, but I just wanted to give something off, just a new perspective to think about, you could say. So, yeah, I am complex to live. And also, when I was starting to make this theory, I was thinking I was going to not do Harmony and Horror for a little while, but I saw a familiar film theorist made a video on it, and you know what? That just made me want to theorize this more. I just want to beat Matt Paddock crap. I'm literally just gonna see sometimes what MatPat posts, and I'm gonna try to debunk every single thing this man got. Man, I just want to actually interview MatPat or just do a theory off with him. But oh, and also a few weeks, I think I'm gonna be doing some FNAF references where I'm going to find literally every single mystery that has never been solved in FNAF and try to put that into the timeline. So if you guys want me to do that, tell me, and I'll get right on it. But anyways, I'm Complex Live, and that is my Bella May right over there by the window. And I will see you guys on the other side. Goodbye.